In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can create a VLOOKUP formula that includes wildcards and why you may want to potentially include wildcards in your formulas. In this example here, I've got a pivot table that shows customer names and their respective sales amounts. And I want to do a lookup for a customer to pull in what their sales were. And I can do that, of course, with a VLOOKUP function. So I'm going to create a field here where this is effectively going to be my lookup field where I'm going to enter in the customer name. So let's say I want to look up the value for Alice Williams. So in a normal simple VLOOKUP formula, it's fairly straightforward how we set it up. We set up our lookup value, we look up our table array, and in this case I can just select all of column A and B. The column index number is going to be the second column because I want the sales amount, and the range lookup I'll set it to false because I want an exact match. So it correctly pulls in 353.19 for Alice Williams. So the lookup formula is working correctly. And so how it might work now is I could change this to, let's say, Bob Brown. That'll update. But I purposely added an extra space after Bob Davis here. So now when I key this in, it's going to give me an NA error saying it wasn't found. And the reason for this is because for Bob Davis, I put in an extra space here. So it's not going to pull in an exact match. So what I could do in this case is I could use, I could clean up my data set and use a trim function to get rid of trailing spaces. But what I could also do is use wildcards in my VLOOKUP formula. And so here's how this works. So I've got my lookup value E5. And if I want to add a wildcard, all I need to do is add an asterisk. But I can't just add it like this. What I do need to do first is use the ampersand and then open up quotation marks and now put in the asterisks in there, close quotations. And now what it's going to do is take that value in E5, that name, and add that asterisk to it. And that's what that ampersand symbol is doing. And then in quotes, I'm putting what I want to add to that string. So now it's looking at the same as if I were to type Bob Davis with an asterisk. So it's going to look for that name and anything else after that. Hit enter. Now it's going to correctly pull in 2673.46. So the reason this works now is because that wildcard is saying, okay, anything that starts with this string, Bob Davis, and whatever else comes afterwards. So for example, if I typed in the name wrong, Bob, D-A-V-I, and that's it, it's still going to work because that wildcard is going to say this is basically the start of that string that I want to pull in. So even if I typed in just Bob D, that'll work. Now, where you may encounter problems is if I just type in Bob. The problem is now 1026 is grabbing the first one here for Bob Brown. So that's one thing you want to watch out for when you're dealing with wildcards, because you want to be sure that you're entering your values correctly in the way that you expect them to be. Because if I'm just typing in Bob, I'm just going to get the first Bob in this list because of this wildcard. What I can also do with dealing with wildcards is I can add a wildcard before my search term. Right now, I've got my search term, so it's looking for the value of Bob and then the wildcard after. But what I could also do is add another ampersand before this, and here I'll add another asterisk. So now anything that contains the word Bob or the string Bob is going to be met. So this is where, you know, your wildcard can be really powerful because now you're just looking for a simple word regardless of where it is. So if I hit enter now, still can get 1026 because it's going to grab this first value. But if, let's say, I wanted just to look for anything that has the string MOO, so for Alice Moore, I'm just going to type in MOO. It's not the start of a name. It's right in the middle. And so that pulls in 1152.19, which is that value. So this is where wildcards can be very powerful, but potentially more powerful than you want them to be. So when you're setting them up in your formulas, whether it's in VLOOKUP or anywhere else, consider where you want that asterisk to be. Do you want it at the beginning of the text, after your string, or perhaps on both sides, in which case it can look up anywhere that word is found, that name is found. So depending on how your data is structured, you may want to consider, in this case, it would make sense just to have it where I had, let's say, Bob D. We do a partial lookup that way, and everybody knows that when they're doing the search term, they have to at least include the first few letters of potentially the last name, or at least an initial, depending on what type of data you're working with. With names, it can be a bit potentially dangerous because you could have multiple people with the same types of names. Even the starting last name might be similar, but it can be helpful in the situation where, let's say you're looking for Bob Davis, but your data set, you don't want to go in and clean it up. You'd rather just use a wildcard and search for anything that contains Bob Davis and pull that in there just to make sure that if there are empty spaces afterwards or blank space afterwards, it'll still pull in the value. The best solution would be to go in and clean your data, get rid of those things, those spaces. But for this purpose, I just wanted to show you how we can use wildcards with VLOOKUPs in the case that you're looking for something after the string, in which case you'll put the asterisk afterwards. If you want to look for anything that ends with this string, we could add the asterisks before. So let's do this one more time. Let's do add ampersand and then delete this piece. And let's say anything that ends with Davis, right? 239. So that first match is going to be down here. But if I put Davis and a space, that space that I've got in there, it's going to pull in 2673.46 because now this is looking for, basically saying for this wildcard, we don't care what it starts with as long as it ends with this string. So if I type in Jones, it's going to pull in 1582. So that's Alice Jones because it ends in Jones. So that's where wildcards can be really effective. And it's just a matter of what you're looking for, in what order the string should be, and how it should be structured. But that's how you can use wildcards, not only in VLOOKUP, but this will work in other functions as well. So that's all for this video. If you did like it, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.